Warning: spoilers for Netflix's Resident Evil. On July 14, Netflix released the latest attempt at a live-action adaptation of the Resident Evil franchise, and the streaming series quickly joined the pantheon of Resident Evil translations that have disappointed longtime fans of the series. Early on, Netflix's Resident Evil separated itself from the other adaptations by placing its story within the same timeline as its video game source material. After initial reviews from critics painted a promising picture, optimism was at an all-time high for the new show. Unfortunately, critics and fans rarely see eye to eye when it comes to risky adaptations of long-standing franchises like Resident Evil. After Welcome to Raccoon City's middling reception in 2021, the Netflix show seemingly had nowhere to go but up. Following the series' release, Resident Evil has scored only 24% with its Rotten Tomatoes audience and 1.9 among Metacritic users. Most frustratingly of all, these scores likely would have been higher if obvious Resident Evil mistakes weren't made throughout the show's 8 episodes. After promising to deliver a series in line with the story and elements already established in the video game franchise, Netflix's Resident Evil show fails to satisfy fans as it insists on juggling several tonal and narrative inconsistencies. While the initial reaction to a teen-centered drama set within the Dark Re universe is a justifiable red flag for some, that misunderstanding of the series' existing fanbase is far from the Netflix show's biggest failure. At times the very rules established by the show are forgotten. Entire character moments are sometimes undone as the two timelines in this Resident Evil adaptation continuously contradict each other. In one such instance, Tamara Smart's young Jade Wesker witnesses the fatal sacrifice of her father. This would be an impactful component of the Resident Evil finale if the show hadn't already claimed that the future Jade wasn't aware of her father's death, much less present for his sacrifice. Why Resident Evil adaptations are so difficult to get right. One of the fundamental errors present throughout Netflix's Resident Evil pertains to the scope and presentation of the Outbreak. The new streaming series goes big in its later timeline, showcasing what a full global apocalypse looks like in the Re world. The earlier time period, while focusing on the smaller-scale corruption of a single town, is shown through the lens of two 14-year-old girls. While the change in perspective and the variety of locations may seem interesting at first, they both contribute to Netflix's misunderstanding of an important Resident Evil ingredient. What makes Resident Evil work is its depiction of capable adult characters as they become trapped by localized and increasingly overwhelming monstrosities. Branching away from that by focusing on younger and more inexperienced characters whose story exists only in the bookends before and after the outbreak creates an unnecessary divide between the source material and this adaptation. Many were fairly expecting a more accurate depiction of the Re video game universe after early enthusiasm for the Netflix series was built by the reveal of Lance Reddick's Albert Wesker. Wesker has been a franchise staple since 1996, and the Resident Evil faithful were curious to learn how Albert could possibly be returning after his death in the fifth mainline video game entry. Ultimately, the secret to Wesker's Resident Evil survival was little more than a bait-and-switch. While the true Wesker is seen on screen for a few minutes late in the series, the Albert given the most screen time is in fact a clone who has nothing in common with the character fans were eager to see. It's easy for an adaptation like Resident Evil to fail when so many of the franchise's core components and characters are abandoned. This may have been a worthwhile long-term risk for Netflix since Season 2 already promises the return of actual franchise alumni. In the meantime, however, it is still unfortunate that no matter the medium Resident Evil's fanbase remains starved of a proper live-action translation of the iconic horror experience.